nail polish, and are increasingly recognized as in and of themselves being harmful, or that they, in combination, as you were saying earlier, in combination with other ingredients, they can sort of sensitize you to those ingredients. So it may not be that the particular ingredient itself is harmful, but it makes it more likely that other ingredients are harmful. So with nail polish, they have this sort of industry-wide thing now where some are 10 free, some are 13 free, and it's like, yes, that's fine, but what's actually in your polish? Like it's great to know what's not, but unless I know what's in there, and it's not, in the US at least, it's not obligatory for a cosmetics company to disclose their full ingredients list. So if a company is disclosing their full ingredients list and perhaps has like a materials safety data sheet, which I love to ask companies for those.
Or the SDS, sometimes it's referred to, safety data sheet. Yeah.
So I will ask for those, and I will, and a lot of the time that's behind the scenes. I'll email and I'll say, I'm not publishing this online, because this is your proprietary data, but I do want to know what's actually in there if I'm going to recommend it.
So the beauty industry, to me, that is a big, big, big beef that I have. And, because when it comes to food, you are required to disclose. But when it comes to beauty products, which, by the way, you're putting on your skin, which is your largest organ, you're not. Yeah. And on the subject of clean beauty, is there any push to actually change the industry and have that be something that does get disclosed? Because I do feel like that's a disservice to the people that are using those products.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because most people don't know to ask for an SDS. Let's face it, like we go to the grocery store to buy a cosmetic, or we go to, the Shishi department store to buy it. And guess what? Doesn't necessarily mean that one's better than the other.
Yeah.
So just because we're spending more doesn't mean that we're getting a better product.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the other thing with greenwashing, isn't it? As soon as you say that it's, mostly natural ingredients or something, you can up your price, because people are trying to do their best. And unfortunately, some companies will take advantage of that. In terms of the cosmetics industry, striving to do better, there are people for sure who are working behind the scenes. A lot of companies themselves are pushing for that. Without getting too political, there has been, I would say, significant regulatory roadblocks in the last few years, with even some consumer protections being rolled back. Sometimes that's because there is a regulation that has lapsed that should have been renewed or extended. So a lot of the time, even the companies that are actually trying to push for better regulations, for more strict laws on what can and can't be included, and whether companies have to disclose their full ingredients lists and processes. A lot of that is stymied in the current climate. Yeah, which is a real shame. It really does behoove us as consumers to support those companies that are trying and that are clearly making those efforts. And I think once you start digging into it, it gets easier to spot who those which companies those actually are, and which ones are just sort of pandering.
Is there a category of products that you feel requires us to take a closer look more than others? In all the categories that you have, auto, baby and kids, bath, cosmetics, fitness, is there one category as a whole that you feel like needs to maybe clean up a little bit more, or give a little bit more focus to that?
Oh, goodness. I think that probably depends on what week it is for me. I think probably I would say, that's between like the sort of the baby and kids situation and cosmetics. Cosmetics are terrible. There's so many things in there that we just should not be putting on our skin, and the cumulative effect of that is shocking. I would also actually thinking more broadly in the sort of cosmetics and like bathroom necessities. The women's sanitary, menstrual management products are especially egregious. There is, and there are laws. There is lobbying. There is significant movement to improve the standards, because when we think about the amount of cotton that is conventional pesticide riddled cotton that is then bleached, so it has potential for exposing you to dioxins, which are potentially carcinogenic, and then where those things are being used, it's no big surprise that people have health issues connected to that. And it makes it more likely that people will get toxic shock syndrome. And because it's, maybe this is a controversial statement, but because it's women's products, generally, it's just not something that is talked about. And it's very hard for many politicians to care about those causes and actually champion regulations to go through, in the US.
So you're talking about women's menstrual products, tampons, pads, things of that nature. Are you also talking about like any sort of externally applied like birth control, or is it more menstrual management?
Definitely menstrual management. Birth control is not something that we would
I mean like external. I mean like external, like things that are so I think this is a subject that comes up in the in my circle of friends a lot, because the truth is, like you said, cotton is already one of the most polluted and dirty industries, and then you have products that are being used and then they're being soaked in other products. Cotton being soaked in other products to, and then literally placed in a very sensitive area. Is there a category? What category would people go to your website and find out more about maybe cleaner products to use?
So that would be under the bath section on the website. So I look at things like menstrual cups and reusable cloth pads, and there's even a startup in the UK that has a reusable tampon applicator, because a lot of the it's
wow.
I'm not sure it's available in the US yet, but I think they're called Dame, and they realized that a huge amount of the waste that comes from like the landfill waste that comes from us managing menstruation every month is from the plastic applicators that people use, and they're not entirely necessary, but some people like them. And if you can use a reusable one, then you're saving tons of material going to landfill over your lifetime, and also avoiding putting plastic somewhere that shouldn't have plastic. So it's a win-win, really. And then I guess the other thing there as well is looking at a lot of the companies that do make reusable cloth pads. Again, they're sort of walking this line of saying that things are eco-friendly, but then they're using conventional cotton and dyeing it with potentially toxic carcinogenic dyes that can harm you and also can harm the people who are making them, the people who are, the sort of upstream producers of those things. So, it's, really looking for the ones that are made organically, made with organic cotton, made with natural dyes that aren't bleached, all of those sorts of things.
So for everybody out there, check out Leafscore.com. How do they follow you? Do you have a social media presence as well where people can follow you and maybe follow up-to-date reviews?
We do. So we're we're on Twitter at Leafscore. I think it's Leaf_score. Score. If that makes sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of those links are on the website. Yes, so Leaf_score on Twitter. And then I think it's the same on Instagram as well. I used to do the social media. It is now being done by somebody else.
No problem.
Yeah, as a scrappy little startup, we're getting there.
I love it. And I think, again, it's just such a wonderful and important thing to be endeavoring on to help people find their way. I always end, as we come to the end of our time, I always end our interviews with an important question. I know we haven't really talked about food, but
yeah, which is funny, really.
But
talk about nonstick pans or something.
I was gonna. Well, and I think, boy, you and I could dish like for days because I geek out on this stuff too. But how do you eat? How do you said you're a vegan, but how do you prioritize nutrition in your everyday? And what do you feel is maybe, something important for people out there that are evaluating their food to consider? Obviously pans, and I'm sure you go into that in detail, as I have on my website, but how do you make food decisions for yourself personally?
Well, for me, it definitely, the veganism is just sort of a given at this point. But I certainly prioritize buying organic, buying local, trying to buy seasonal as much as possible. So I have a local veg box delivery that comes to my house every week. I go to farmers market. I also try and grow as much of my own food as possible, which has been tricky in the last few years of moving around, but finally settled in a new place, and I've been building raised beds and putting in lots of things. So looking forward to a really good summer on that front. And then, yes, as you say, making sure that what I'm cooking my food in is as healthy as the food itself, because it really makes very little sense to me to buy a lovely little box of fresh garlic scapes and then fry them up in a Teflon coated pan, and have all those fumes around the house that you're breathing in and that everybody else is breathing in. So I have a robust cast iron collection, which I adore, which
love cast iron.
Makes moving house far harder, I have to say, but is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, love it. Leigh, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I think that what you're doing with Leafscore is really interesting. We'll definitely check out all of the categories. And I think as we are talking today, again, is National Clean Beauty Day for the ladies and the guys that are using any sort of products, whether it's on your skin or in your body. It's really important to pay attention to this. So I encourage you to take a little closer look. If there's no ingredients listed, then ask about that. Reach out to the company if you don't see it on Leafscore, and do your due diligence so that you can avoid having something like what happened to me, which was incredibly painful and just horrific for the better part of a month. Avoid things like that potentially. And it's not always a sure bet, but knowing is better than not knowing.
Yeah. And I would say as well to any of your listeners, if you find a fantastic product that you would just love to share, then please send me an email at leigh@leafscore.com, because I don't always manage to see everything. It's such a wild world of new companies and out there, and I would love to hear from the ones that are doing great things.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Leigh.
Thank you so much, Maria. This was lovely.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I know you have a lot of choices out there of what to listen to, what to watch, so it means a lot to me that you're here with me. And hey, if you love this content, would you hit the subscribe button? I want you around. I don't want you to just show up for one episode and leave. I want you here, part of the conversation, a seat at this table. And while you're at it, would you share this with your friends and family? And if you take a screenshot and share it on your social media with a hashtag RFYBL for Recipes for Your Best Life, I'll make sure to personally give you a shout out, and you may just be featured right here on the show. So until next time, here's to living deliciously and being the chef of your best life.